In the dimly lit corner of a forgotten antique store, hidden behind layers of dust and forgotten memories, lay an innocent-looking doll. Its once vibrant colors had faded with time, but its glassy eyes still held a sinister glint. The doll's origins were shrouded in mystery, as it had passed through the hands of countless owners over the years. Little did anyone know that within its seemingly lifeless form, a malevolent spirit was trapped, a spirit that hungered for revenge and chaos. The story began in a quaint suburban house nestled on the outskirts of a small town. The Smiths, a family of 4, had just moved in, seeking a fresh start after a tragic accident that had claimed their youngest daughter's life. As the days turned into weeks, a strange unease settled upon the house. Objects would shift inexplicably, doors creaked open in the dead of night, and unsettling whispers echoed through the halls. The family dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidences, attributing them to the stress of their recent loss. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the house, Mrs. Smith discovered the antique doll in a dusty corner of the basement. She brushed off the dirt and cobwebs, her heart aching with a strange mix of nostalgia and sorrow. She placed the doll on a shelf in her daughter's old room, hoping that it might bring a glimmer of happiness back into their lives. That night, as Mrs. Smith lay in bed, sleep eluded her. She tossed and turned, her senses on high alert. In the darkness, she heard a faint rustling sound, like the shuffling of tiny feet. Startled, she turned on the bedside lamp and scanned the room. Nothing seemed out of place except for the doll. Its once empty eyes now held a chilling gleam, as if it were watching her every move. As the days passed, the strange occurrences in the house escalated. Toys would mysteriously rearrange themselves, lights flickered ominously, and the whispers grew louder and more menacing. Unbeknownst to the Smiths, the spirit trapped within the doll had latched onto their grief and anger, feeding off their emotions and growing stronger with each passing day. Meanwhile, in a dilapidated apartment across town, lived a young woman named Emily. She had heard whispers of the haunted house on the outskirts of town, and her fascination with the supernatural led her to investigate. Emily had always been drawn to the macabre, having an affinity for the stories of vengeful spirits and cursed objects. Armed with a camera and a tape recorder, she embarked on a journey to uncover the truth. Upon entering the Smith's house, Emily immediately sensed a heavy, oppressive aura. She explored room after room, documenting her findings with a mix of excitement and trepidation. When she reached the room with the antique doll, a chill ran down her spine. The doll's glassy eyes seemed to follow her, and its cracked lips twisted into a sinister grin. Emily shivered but pressed on, determined to capture evidence of the supernatural. As Emily reviewed her recordings later that night, she noticed something unsettling. A faint, barely audible voice seemed to emanate from the doll. It was as if the spirit trapped within was trying to communicate, its words a chilling mix of anger and anguish. Emily's fascination turned to fear, realizing that the doll was far more sinister than she had initially thought. With each passing day, the Smiths' lives spiraled further into chaos. Their grief-stricken hearts were the perfect feeding ground for the malevolent spirit. The whispers grew louder, the shadows darker, and the doll's influence spread like a malignant virus. Mr. Smith's once calm demeanor turned volatile, and he began to see visions of his lost daughter, beckoning him towards the darkness. Desperate and on the brink of madness, Mrs. Smith reached out to Emily, hoping that her knowledge of the supernatural could offer a solution. Emily arrived at the house once more, her determination to confront the evil spirit unwavering. Armed with an array of esoteric objects and rituals she had learned in her research, Emily prepared for a showdown with the malevolent force. In the dimly lit room, Emily faced the haunted doll, a shiver running down her spine. She recited incantations, drew protective symbols, and lit candles in a desperate attempt to banish the spirit. The room trembled with a malevolent energy as the doll's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. Just as Emily thought she had the upper hand, the doll's cracked lips moved, forming a wordless, chilling incantation of its own. A torrent of dark energy erupted from the doll, engulfing Emily in its suffocating grip. Visions of vengeful spirits, tortured souls, and unspeakable horrors flashed before her eyes. She felt herself losing control, her mind slipping into the abyss. In her last moments of consciousness, she realized that the doll wasn't just possessed. It was a vessel for an ancient, malevolent entity that had manipulated the spirits of revenge and anger for centuries. The battle between Emily and the doll unleashed a cataclysmic force that tore through the fabric of reality, bridging the gap between the living and the dead. The Smith's house became a nexus of malevolence, a convergence of tormented souls seeking retribution. The walls bled with the memories of tragedy, and the air was thick with the weight of unfulfilled vengeance. In the end, the Smith's house stood as a beacon of horror, a testament to the insatiable thirst for revenge. The doll, now imbued with the collective rage of the spirits it had ensnared, continued to haunt its chambers, an eternal embodiment of malevolence. The townspeople avoided the house, unable to escape the unsettling feeling that it was a place where the barriers between worlds had been torn asunder. And so, the story of the haunted doll and the tormented house lived on, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones to those who dared to seek the forbidden knowledge of the supernatural. The entity within the doll remained ever watchful, its malevolent presence a reminder that some evils were too ancient, too cunning, to ever be truly exorcised. The darkness that had consumed the Smiths' lives now permeated every inch of the house, a chilling reminder that vengeance could never be quenched, only fed.